Alright, what's going on, guys? I'm just doing a real quick vlog today. I've been doing some overclocking PC junk for past couple days now, and I think I've finally found the sweet spot. So this whole notebook here has me stress testing at different clock speeds, at different multipliers, and at different voltages. Now, my main goal over the past couple of days has been to bring the voltage down as low as possible by still hitting, or while still hitting, peak performance at a solid, stable overclock. So right now, there are a couple programs I'm using. First up, I'm using Real Temp to monitor the temperatures. Let me go ahead and bring that, there we go. Okay, so the lowest we've hit so far is 26. Earlier I saw it as 24, but I've been resetting it. This is on idle. We only have Cinebench open, EVGA Precision, and Discord. Only a couple different applications here. So I'm looking at those temperatures. That's on idle with 5% load. We're currently running at 4.6 gigahertz. That's what it's currently clocked to. So Cinebench is what I'm using as a render test. But I'm actually using the Intel Extreme Tuning utility as a stress test and something to change the settings with. So if we go back to Advanced Tuning, currently you can see what I've been setting to currently, right now it's stable at 4.6 gigahertz. The boost for this CPU, this is a 4790K. The boost for this CPU is 4.4 gigahertz. Usually the stock voltage, I believe, is 1.26 volts to the CPU. So right now within Intel XTU, currently we have the voltage mode at static. We did not touch the core voltage offset at all. The Turbo Boost Short Power Max enabled is enabled. All the cores are set to 4.6 gigahertz. We have not touched the processor cache ratio. That's processor cache ratio, sorry. That is in auto. That's currently within the BIOS. And right now we're stable at 1.195 volts. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm bringing it down rather by 0.005 volts every single time, or 0.05 either way, to see what the lowest core voltage I can get while stable at 4.6. We're going to go ahead and bring this over here. I'm going to go ahead and hit reset so we can get a reset on our maximum and minimum temperatures. You're seeing it go down to 26. And recently it hasn't been this low. It's only been this low, 25, for the past couple of minutes, about 10 or so minutes. The system has been up for, I can't remember exactly how long now, about a couple minutes, probably maybe 30 minutes at this point. The reason what I did is because I had realized that I was using too little amount of thermal paste. The amount of the pea size that I was putting on there simply was not enough. What I decided to do afterwards was instead, just recently I got home, I took the CPU out, everything. I cleaned it all off from the other thermal paste, and I did the 3-line method. So the 3-line method is essentially, let me go ahead and make a little CPU here. So if this is the CPU, Intel CPUs have the die sort of rectangular here in the middle. I was doing a very small amount in the middle, and that was my mistake, because when you put pressure with the heatsink, it wasn't spreading it out properly enough. So I had the corners kind of wide open. So instead what I did is I did a thin line here in the middle, a thin line here on the side, and a thin line here on the side. Now so far, this has been doing really, really well. So again, I just brought it down to 1.19 volts instead. I'm only bringing it down by very small increments. I'm gonna hit apply. It looks like it's gonna go through okay. Voltages, or sorry, the temperatures didn't change at all. This is completely idle with only a couple programs open. So that test has completed, or at least the application test. We're gonna do a stress test for 1 minute through XTU. Let me go ahead and make a quick note here. So now let me go ahead and write this. I'll go ahead and keep an eye on that. So currently it's at package temperature of 33, max temperature so far of 72 degrees Celsius on one of the cores. Load is at 99%, 98%, 97%. It's pretty high up there. This test is only running for a minute. I used to have, or I have IDA64 and I have Prime 95, but I didn't feel like those would be very good tests because IDA64 is designed to punch as much heat into the system as possible. Now I'll probably do that at a later time once the Arctic Silver has a little bit longer of a time to cure, so to speak. But this test is almost done. Let me go ahead and mark down that the render passed successfully through Cinebench. This has 5 seconds left, so let me go ahead and do, we're going at 4.6 gigahertz right now at 1.190 volts. So the CPU stress test passed, okay? Stress passed. What were our Mac temps? 69, 73, 69, and 64. That is pretty fucking awesome. Now what we're gonna do, and look at that, we're right back down to high 20s, very low 30s on idle. We're gonna go ahead and run the Cinebench test, and I've had it in a couple other situations before where it's been at 842, 833, but that was with Turbo Boost on Intel. That's when everything was auto in the BIOS. I'm not doing that right now. I'm only using XTU, Cinebench, and a couple other programs to see what exactly I can push it to, and then finally save the settings in the BIOS. Right now on the BIOS, I believe it's sitting at 4.5 gigahertz at the 1.2 volts currently, or 1.12 volts. Or sorry, it should be 1.2 volts in the BIOS right now, which is stable. That's great, which is stable. Now we're looking at, so the bench test is about to complete, and essentially I want to see if I can bring this up by any means to 4.7 gigahertz. If I can bring this up to 4.7 with reasonable temperatures and voltage, then I'm good. But look at that. That was a huge difference. That last run 775, we just jumped up to 834 just by doing that tiny little uptick. Now Cinebench, I don't really care about. Look at that, 842, 834. There's not really a big difference there. There's not really a big difference at all. So what I'm gonna do, and we're right back down, our max temps at 70, 75, 77, 72, 66. So a little bit warmer, but I'm just gonna call that's gonna be within a margin of error. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and save that score for 1. So that was perfectly stable. I'm gonna go ahead and mark down the max temps. So we have a couple different options right now that are stable. Let me go ahead and do 75, 77, 72, and 66. Okay, now what we're gonna do is that was only through XTU. So we're gonna go ahead and power down. We're gonna get into the UEFI and we're gonna set it up. And if it boots, it should be good. After we get back into the application or after we get back into the PC, hopefully then we can still go ahead and run Cinebench and it will hopefully still be there. Again, we're at 4.6 gigahertz right now. So it's pretty good. It's not too much higher than the 4.4 boost, but every chip is different. So let's go ahead and get to the BIOS here. All right, we're in the BIOS. Here we are, OC Tweaker. So everything's running. It's running at all cores right now. Again, CPU cache ratio is on auto, but the ratio for all the other cores is 45. We're gonna go ahead and change that to 46. And then we're gonna go back down here and we're gonna set the override mode. Override mode is on. We're gonna change the voltage to the 1.190 volts. Now we're gonna hit F10, hit yes, and it should boot. I don't wanna jinx it, but it should boot. And we should be looking at the debug code. Debug code is normal. Okay, so Windows is booting. I'm gonna let this get into Windows. If I can run a Cinebench test at 4.6 at 1.19 volts with those temperatures, I will be very happy. So let's go ahead and get signed in here. Let me enter my password. And I'm just doing this as a little vlog because I've been doing this quite frequently recently, and I'm really trying to hit the sweet spot on this processor. Okay, so right now we're not at idle. We do have some load going on. We just got through startup. EVGA Precision XOC is opening for our GPU fans. There we go. Now we're going back to idle. That's still pretty good. If I can get that, I'm okay. The AC is not on in here, and our current ambient temperature is 64 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'll go ahead and, here, let's go ahead and change this to Celsius real quick, and then we'll get an accurate reading, so to speak. All right, 18 degrees Celsius currently. Our intake temperature is 19 degrees Celsius. The AC is not on. As you guys can hear, there's no other AC, there's no other air. Right there, we just dipped down to 25 degrees Celsius on one of the cores. That's awesome, and this reset as soon as we rebooted, so no worries. What we're gonna go ahead and do is while it's sitting there, we should be good to go. It shows we are running at 4.6 gigahertz. I'm gonna go ahead and load up Cinebench, and we're gonna see what kind of score we can get. I believe the last one was in the 800s. 842 or 834 was our last score. So we're gonna go ahead and run this test here. Hopefully it's stable. It seems like it booted okay, but we're gonna go ahead and push it through the load and see if it can handle this test. Pretty good temperature still. I'm trying to hit under 80 degrees Celsius. If I can hit under 80 degrees Celsius on a 4.6 gigahertz with as low amount of voltage as possible, I will be very, very happy. And I'm pretty sure that that thermal paste application that I did up to 3 lines made a huge difference, because I was not seeing those idle temperatures as I was beforehand. Oh, blue screen. Okay, so no worries. We're gonna go ahead and bring the voltage up. Shouldn't be a problem. We'll bring it up again, 0.15. Bring it back up to 4.195. That should be fine. Try to bring the voltage down a little bit. It wasn't stable. So now we know, now we have the sweet spot. So that's pretty much all I wanted to make a vlog for you guys about. I have been doing this quite frequently recently, and I'm just trying to get the most out of the build at the moment, because I kind of thought about upgrading at one point and then kind of just said screw it. So we're gonna change that to 1.195. I'm gonna keep toying around with this. It's gonna boot up just fine. But I really wanted to make a vlog because I've been into this very recently. I'll have a couple new things coming soon. It's gonna be a little time because I got a lot going on at work and life in general, but I really wanted to make this vlog and get this out to you guys. If you have any questions, whatever, go ahead and feel free to ask. I'll put some links in the description down below for real temp, as well as the Intel Extreme Tuning Utility. Again, that's software side, so it still makes the change on your PC, but after you do the stress test, go through the BIOS, change it, boot back up again, and try to run another stress test or a render to see if it actually completes that render or that stress test at the settings you changed in the BIOS. So that's really all I have for the moment. I'm gonna keep going on this a little bit. I got some games to play, see what we can do in that term. Hopefully we'll be good, and I'll upload this as soon as I can. So I will see you guys later. All right, so right now the build just booted. We hit a Cinebench score of 852. We are back down at 3% load. Our temperatures are in the high 20s, and our max temps hit 77 degrees Celsius. So we are at a stable 4.6 gigahertz, right up there. Again, we just brought it back up to our 1.195 volts. It passed the stress test, it passed the render test. I don't think there's any more to do. Again, I'm gonna do a little bit of gaming, see if a blue screen's there. I might run a stress test for just a couple more minutes to make sure it's at its prime state. Usually with other programs like 8064 and Prime 95, your PC will pretty much hit the max temperatures within about the first 30 seconds to a minute of it being at 100% full load. So I'm not worried about that right now. We just hit 24 degrees Celsius at one point. So we're good. I think that thermal paste upgrade made a huge change. I'm actually going to go ahead and post a link in the description as well from Puget Systems, where they have an article essentially about their different application testing of thermal paste and which ones were best for them. I'll go ahead and include that in the description down below. That's where I looked primarily before I made the decision to change my current pasting situation. So that's all, guys. I will see you in the next one.